Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. I know it's getting late in the day. Okay, so my name is Anand Gomes. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Paradex. For those of you who don't know what Paradex is, we are a perpetuals DEX built on a starknet app chain. For fun fact, we're our starknet's first app chain. And actually, I do think we were one of the earliest app chains out there. We were very early on the thesis. We're very proud of that. So show of hands here, how many people trade perpetuals? Awesome. How many people have heard of Paradex? Okay, good. So a few metrics for you guys. You know, we are our own chain, so we are starknet's first app chain. Like I said, we do about 150 million a day in volume. We've been live for about 9 months on mainnet. We've traded about 32 billion so far. Fun fact, we do about 1 billion Cairo steps per month, which is just a testament to the complexity of the application. We're super proud of that. And we have about a 340, 350-ish weekly active wallets. But today I'm here to talk about what we called high-yield multi-strategy portfolios, or what we like to call Degen vaults. But before we jump into that, let's get into like what vaults are, right? So vaults are a very simple idea where you have a vault contract where a user deposits money, and the vault performs some sort of automated investment or trading action, generates some yield, and then that yield is distributed back to the depositors. Right? So it's a simple idea of I invest, and then as a depositor, I get some share of whatever the yield that the vault is generating. Right? Now in crypto, vaults have gone through multiple stages of evolution. If you guys remember, any one of you in the crowd who probably interacted with Ribbon Finance back in the day, those were like what we call V1 or version 1 of vaults, right? They position themselves as on-chain structured products, which is a very simple idea, which is, a depositor deposits some money, the vault effectively writes and sells options, collects yield, and then distributes that yield to the depositors, right? So very simple, single asset, which was options, and then single strategy, which was selling options, and then collecting yield, right? So super simple. It did have some disadvantages. For example, you did not have a LP token, so you have no representation for this vault asset that you have, because it is an asset to you, because you've put money in the vault, but you have nothing to show against it. You can't borrow it, you can't lend it, etc. You can't use it as collateral anywhere. So that was one of the disadvantages. It was also very capital efficient, because if you're trying to generate yield by selling options, it means you have to deposit the full notional value of the contract itself, right? So, which is 100% collateralized, which is obviously very, it's very capital efficient, because you could be doing much more with that capital by trading it, yield, staking it, et cetera, right? So it was 100% collateral and collateralized, and therefore inefficient. It was also locked up. So every vault, for example, had a duration. For example, it would, let's say, like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and until the maturity of that contract, you couldn't withdraw your money, right? So you were locked up. No matter what happened in the market, you were locked up. So again, that's a bad thing for depositors. And of course, all of this stuff is on chain, so it's visible. And in finance, generally, if you're trying to do some sort of strategy, and that's visible to other people, you can be attacked, or you can be front run, or people can basically use that information that they're seeing on chain against you in some way. So that, again, that's a bad thing. And frequently we've seen people getting front run in vaults and so on and so forth, right? So that was version 1 of vaults. Then Hyperliquid came along, I think, last year, and they basically took vaults to the next level, right? And they positioned it as copy trading 2.0, right? So like a better version of what we all, have used copy trading on some of these platforms. But Hyperliquid said, okay, no, we want to take this to the next level. And the difference was that it was still single asset. So for example, you could only trade perps, but it could be multi-strategy, right? So imagine a vault where you're depositing some amount of cash, and the vault is, performing funding rate arbitrage, spread trading, and trading or trading like 500 different tokens. Previously, that was not possible in Ribbon or any of the previous versions of vaults before that, right? So still single instrument, but multi-strategy, which was a big step evolution over V1. right? But however, there's still a few drawbacks. Still no LP token. So even though this is an asset to you, you can't really do anything with it. You can't, lend it, borrow against it, etc. And that again is bad because that's yours, and you should be able to leverage whatever assets you have. However, you did get one really big advantage, which is the capital efficiency of these vaults are extremely good because Hyperliquid is cross-margined. It means, and they give you a lot of leverage, so you don't actually have to put in the entire value of the contract, when you enter into as a deposit into a vault, right? So that was a really big upgrade. And the other nice thing was you could withdraw your vault asset on demand, which is also a really nice property. So if the market's moving a bunch, and let's say you want to take advantage of some opportunity, you can literally just go withdraw give your LP token back. Sorry, there was no LP token, but you could just withdraw your cash and then go and do whatever you want with it, right? So that was a really nice on-demand property of the vault. But one of it still had a disadvantage in terms of privacy, because now you're doing all this really complicated stuff on chain, and everybody can see what you're doing, right? So they're actually, we've heard of people that actually their full-time job is actually to watch what the vault is doing, and then they try to take advantage of opportunities because they know the vault is going to do X or Y, and then they try to position themselves to profit from that activity in some form, right? So we at Paradex think that this V1 obviously was the start, V2 was version 2 and also a really big upgrade, but we think it's time to go to level 3 mainly because of what technology can do today, and especially with regards to the fact that we run our own app chain and we have sort of infinite flexibility in terms of the things we can do to customize the user experience. And so at Paradex, we're building, V3 of vaults, and we're positioning this, or what we like to think is basically, end-to-end full on-chain investment management, right? So think of like TradFi, where you would give money to a hedge fund or a mutual fund or something like that, and then of course, the fund manager takes some fee and then gives you, but they take custody of your assets, but then gives you some return, right? We think it's time, and we think it's possible, and that's what we're launching in a few months. Is basically this idea of full end-to-end investment management on chain, right? And the ways in which it will differ are the follows. So for starters, it will be multi-instrument. So unlike just options or perps, these vaults will basically, you can put anything in it. So think of spot, options, futures, or even like real world assets, right? So as long as they're tokenized and they have some tokenized representation on chain, we can put it in there and manage it as a portfolio. So that obviously is a really big one. 2 is multi-strategy, because now you have all these different types of instruments in there, and you can buy one, sell the other, or do whatever you want with it. You sort of have infinite flexibility on what you want to do. The other really big advantage is you actually have an LP token now. So you deposit money in this multi-strategy portfolio, and you get an LP token against that. And then you can basically withdraw that LP token to L1, put it in Pendle, Morpho, basically we introduce composability to a primitive that didn't have that, and we think that's a very powerful thing, and I'll talk about that in particular in the benefits in a bit. It's on demand, just like Hyperliquid, so again, you can withdraw your money anytime. And then one of the really cool things that we're excited about is, for the first time, we're working on introducing privacy, right? Now, that won't be in V1, but we think that introducing privacy on chain is a very, very important thing, because if you don't have that, it's sort of self-limiting. Vaults cannot scale if investment managers or fund managers think that oh, I have my alpha and I have this proprietary strategy, but people can copy me and can front run me and so on and so forth. And basically, we think that that's a very bad thing, and it basically prevents the scalability of vaults. But that's something we think we can enable, and we're working on that, but it definitely won't be in V1, right? But again, it also is another great example of something we can do with app chains, which I don't think you can do with anything else, right? Because if we were on the public network, we definitely would not be able to do something like this. Okay, so Vault's obviously great. We're super excited about launching this. We think it's going to represent, really another, the a stepwise evolution in moving more money on chain and moving to a more permissionless model of making money. And we're very excited about that. But vaults also have some very, key, unique benefits, right? That previously, did not exist because of the nature of how it aligns incentives. So the first one is it aligns incentives between, very sophisticated investors and your average retail investors, right? Well, how do they do that, right? If you think about perpetuals or any sort of derivative, it is what they call zero-sum trading, right? So my loss is your gain or vice versa, right? So there's always a loser if there's a winner, right? But now, because of vaults, you are able to, the depositor basically puts money into a vault and then makes a sophisticated user who they would otherwise be trading against be doing work for them, and they would just be sharing profits, but in exchange for a fee, right? So it's a way to connect people with like alpha or people with like some sort of like investment or trading edge with people that have capital, or let's say just like a bunch of retail users. If you aggregate their capital, they are now able to participate directly in the knowledge of these like professional users, and all they have to do is just give them a little bit of fee, right? So we think that's changing of incentives in what is otherwise a zero-sum. They call them PvP games. If you're familiar with that term, you've probably seen it on Twitter a bunch. But we believe that this is super powerful, and for the first time, this is now also sort of a social sort of change where participants in the market or groups of participants in the market are now sort of aligned in a way that they were not aligned before. Now, there's also some other, getting a little bit more granular, but let's say a depositor, for instance, right? Again, I get, like, let's say I'm an average retail user, I have some job, I have a daily job. It's not I don't know how to trade, right? That's not my expertise. So basically, it's a way for me to connect with these folks, share some fees, get access to alpha, and then basically I basically go to sleep without stress, right? So for me, what it's done is it's changed what would otherwise have been a active trading decision, which obviously is stress. Managed trading is stress, right? And we've been trading for a long time, and it's converted that into what is a passive investment decision, right? And basically improve the quality of life, which again I think is a very cool byproduct of this primitive. And then for the vault owner or the sophisticated user that basically has alpha or some sort of like trading edge, it's a way for them to like permissionally source capital from basically anybody in the world, right? Otherwise, the normal route of raising money is you basically go to VCs or whoever, and you're trying to basically pool capital together. Here is a way for you to basically say, look, all you need is just some trading edge. You deploy some basic amount of your own capital, show some trading record on the vault, and then people can see, okay, this person has generated 50% over the last whatever 2 months, 3 months, and now that becomes like an attractive investment opportunity, right? And they don't have to do any of that. They don't have to actively go out and source capital for their vaults. They basically just do what they do, and people are able to sort of subscribe and invest directly in the vaults, right? So we think, again, this is connecting pros to your average users in a way in which it aligns incentives. Again, very powerful thing that was previously sort of like not possible. And then the last, what we call degenning or responsible degenning, is because of this ability to, that you now have an LP token. So every depositor into a vault has an LP token. But this LP token, like I said, can be withdrawn to L1. You can put it in Pando, do the PTYT, separate the yield component from the principal component, and introduce sort of more risk management and hedging tools, which obviously is great. But what you can also do, and this is something we're most excited about, is let's say, for instance, you have some user or the protocol itself creates a basis vault, right? A basis vault is pretty simple. It's if you guys are familiar with what Athena is, it's very similar. So you're long some spot asset and you're short the perpetual, and you're collecting yield, right? But it's a market neutral vault. Like there's no market exposure to it. And so now what we can do is the protocol can give you credit against that LP token. So you can basically take that LP token from this vault and put it into another vault. Which again, it sounds degen. It is probably some degen. It is degen, but we think these are the kinds of innovations that are needed, and this primitive unlocks. So this is something we're super excited about. And vaults will probably come out sometime in September, right? But Paradex is not just that. So switching gears a little bit, this is kind of our roadmap. It's a very exciting and ambitious roadmap for the rest of the year. We'll talk a little bit about bridges and wallets, but we've isolated margin, sub accounts, Degen vaults, spot options, all coming this year. So if you are trading, we would love to get you on the platform and give us some feedback. And today, we have one big announcement, is that, we've been working with all these great folks you see on the board for a while, but we're super excited to announce that basically we now have support for cross-chain bridges, so Layer Swap and Rhinify, and now we also support Starknet wallets, right, which is Argent and Bravos. And in celebration of that, if you're a user of any of these protocols, and if you deposit, $1,000 and you trade 25K, which is a relatively small amount for perpetuals, you will basically get airdropped, 1,000 points, right? So get on there and do as much trading as you can, because this is an incentive, for a special incentive for you guys. But it's not just that. We have another incentive that's also running, which is Christmas came a little bit early this year, and it's a 10x TVL points boost, a 5x points boost on open interest, and which is something I really like, which is if you trade $1 million in July, you basically lock in a 10% points boost for next season, which starts in August. So yeah, that's basically us. Again, if you have more questions about the vault or anything we're doing in general, find me after the talk. I'm around for the rest of the afternoon. This is also a code for a 10% discount on fees. So if you guys are interested, please snap away. Thank you.